Check, check. There it is. Thank you, everybody, for coming out on this day of truth and reconciliation for this screening. You know, when we talk about entering into things with reciprocity, I think the fact that we are here tonight watching this beautiful film is a way to do this in a really good way. My name is Jon Montes. As you see from my really pink face, I am very much an uninvited settler living in these beautiful lands. My roots are European, from Spanish and British ancestry, and I am just blown away to be able to have a conversation with the twin forces of nature that are Shane Belcourt and Tom Wilson. And you know, as we acknowledge gratitude for this land, thank you to both of you for this incredible film. It is it's a hell of a story, you know?
Thanks, John. Thanks, everybody, for sticking around. Tom, can you hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Perfection. Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Wilson.
Hello? Oh my God, how big is my head there? Jesus.
It's a little surprising, but it's fine.
I think it's appropriately sized. I think it looks great. So we've got some time to have a conversation.
It's actual size.
And Tom, sorry, where are you right now?
I'm in San Francisco.
Okay, I've heard of it.
Yeah.
There's some applause for San Francisco.
We did a show in Golden Gate Park today, and it was fantastic. And now I'm in yet another hotel room. See?
Tom, you know, I've got to start with you, man. This truth that you have been feeling all of your life, and this, and you know, that you've been so generous in sharing, you know, in this film that we just saw, but also in your book, Beautiful Scars. You know, this has been out in the world for a while, and I'm just wondering, you know, how are you? How has your life changed since, not just since you found this stuff out, but since you started telling people, since other people who know you started knowing, you know, this other side of you that has been, you know, the actual front side of you, but they're just finding it out for the first time?
Well, I'm in a beautiful groove now. The truth. I mean, let's just talk about the truth for a minute, because the truth has ignited me. It's ignited my creative world. It's giving me. I'm creating with intention, and it has, in fact, opened up my heart even more to my family, and to be honest with you, the world in general. I get surprised when today in San Francisco, I acknowledged Truth and Reconciliation Day, and I talked on stage, you know, about it's one of the grossest and most inhumane acts of man in the history of this planet, you know. And backstage after the show, some people were asking me, well, you know, that was really cool. I mean, it was a very big hippie crowd, about 10,000 hippies in San Francisco. And I was asked by people backstage. I started getting in conversations. I started to tell the story. I said, well, you know, I only found out that I was Indigenous 9 years ago. I'm 63 years old now. And I started to go into the story kind of with my eyes closed, and I got a little animated, and I was talking to this little group of people, and I wasn't paying attention to them. And when I opened my eyes, you know, their jaws were all on the ground. You know, it was just like, it was a holy fuck moment for them, because I'm used to this story now. I'm building on this story. This is my life now. So I think you better strap yourself in if this is where you are in life, you know. I feel pretty well strapped in.
Pretty well strapped in. That's that should be the name of the next album. And Tom, I also got to ask, how's everybody at home? How's your mom? How's Janie?
Oh, well, I got a beautiful picture, and you probably won't be able to see it, but my daughter sent me a picture today because of Truth and Reconciliation Day, of course. They all got together back home, and they went to my mom's house, and they brought an apple pie, and she sat around with my grandkids, and all three of them. Maybe you can see that, but well, I don't know. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're living better lives now. We're living a life that is truth. I mean, I've said for a while when I got asked to write the book, of course, they heard me talk about this on CBC radio, and I was still in shock. It was a couple of weeks later, and after they heard me on CBC radio, they asked, Random House called me and got me on the phone and said, "Have you ever thought about writing a book?" And I said, "Well, fuck no, that sounds like way too much work." And it was a lot of work. And I'm writing a second book now, but I'm the last man standing in this story. I'm the last person to know my own story, and so I have to be as truthful and honest, and that comes with a lot of lumps and bumps and wrinkles, But there's no other way to tell the truth. The truth isn't a lot of fun, man. The truth is, it's not a pat on the head. It's more of a kick in the ass, And I've had probably the most inspiring kick in the ass that a man could ever ask for. The revealing, I'm writing a second book now called Blood Memory, although, what was your title for it?
Oh,
Strapped in.
Yeah, well, in writing the second book, I'm not discovering more, but I'm about the story itself, but I am discovering more about myself and about my mother. We've been freed. We've been freed, actually, her and I. And I got to tell you, I know Shane's sitting there, but I haven't watched this movie for a long, long time. And I don't know if I can watch it still for a little while. But Shane really brought us together. His sensitivity and his wholehearted hard work that he put into this film has rubbed off on my family, on my kids, my grandkids, my mother, and myself. And sometimes you just need like a 2x4 to kind of catapult you out of a situation that you're in, and this film did that in so many ways.
Thanks, Tom. And I mean, just for the record, talking about the truth, I think, you say it so well in the film. The truth is a fucker, right? Just own it, right? And Shane, just kind of coming off of that, there is a quality in your films, and this is no exception of, and, Karen, you brought up gratitude at the beginning when you opened the evening, and that is the spirit that I see in your films. Like, people can be going through total shit, and there is this celebration that just kind of courses through your work. And I'm wondering, is that something that you are consciously going for? Like, where does that come from?
Well, I have two problems as a filmmaker, particularly when it comes to documentary.
Two is good.
Two's good. One is that when it comes to documentary, I'm actually a propaganda filmmaker. I realize that, and it's I grew up, as I said, my dad, Tony Belcourt, is an Indigenous rights leader, Order of Canada, all this other good stuff, and really respected within the community. So I was around politics, and politics is the story of who we are and where we want to go. And that's the story I grew up in 24/7. And so for me, that line between telling our truth, creating the space for people to tell their truth, and not, there's no gotcha. I'm not seeking that when I make it. And I realize that in that sense, I'm a pretty terrible documentarian.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It's more about revealing the heart of the story and the people involved with it. And in terms of the gratefulness, the other problem I have is, I like movies with happy endings. I'm just that guy, and and even though there's like I'll watch like the really dark stuff, and it's I think it's masterful and amazing, and I wish I had that gear. And in doing this work with Tom, it's my problem is there's no like Tom is family, so now I'm a part of Tom's family, and that requires not only authenticity and truth, but it also requires responsibility for the honor that he wants to allow me to work with him on his story with his family. And so I come in with that. It comes in with that sense of deep responsibility and love. And so yeah, I love you, Tom. How's it going, brother?
I love you too, Shane. You are one of the family. You are one of the family. You won Janie. I don't mean you won her over. You just you became a part of the family very quickly. Janie said things. Janie is there's no stars in these kind of movies, but Janie is definitely a highlight. She was somebody that broke all of our hearts the first time we saw the film, and she had a confidence. Shane, the camera, your microphone, and you gave her a confidence that she's never had in her entire life. What she talked about in this film, that's the first we heard a lot of it. She unveiled herself for the first time. I haven't talked to her about how important that is to her, but I know it is. I know that we all walked away from this film closer to one another.
Okay, so obviously you guys are in love with each other right now. What was the first conversation like, though? Like, how did you guys hook up? Like, what was that beginning? What was the beginning of this process for both of you?
So I had a producer reached out to a friend of a friend, and then they're looking for a director. Corey Russell working for Cream Productions. And so then I had the meeting with Corey. Corey's a great guy. And then it was just like, well, now Tom has to vet me. I was like, well, hold the phone. I got to vet Tom, bro. This is a two-way street, I got to see if this guy's legit, especially when it comes from like, telling Indigenous identity stories, this guy's got to be for real. And he's got to come from the right place. And basically within, 2 minutes, we were joking around. Nobody else was in the room, and we were just, we were in our own little corner, just being the disruptive kids in a meeting. And it was like, oh, this would be great. This would be rock and roll. And so, and of course, I had read his book prior to, which legitimized my sense that he's coming from this, and not in a place to stake a claim, but in a place to ask to be embraced. And that was very, very important to me. And that was really fun to. So right away we were like, this is great. Let's just hang out and talk, and hang out and talk, and that's how we made the movie.
Shane, you've talked about kind of the politics that you grew up with in your family, and how that kind of shaped you as a filmmaker. Tom, because I'd actually, Shane, we know each other. So that was something that I was going to ask you about. But then as I was thinking through that, I was wondering, Tom, for you, there is so much resistance threaded through your work. It's just a matter of time. We're gonna learn to shine, right? And I think of your grandmother saying to that Mountie, you're not going to take one Lazar away. And I think of Janie when that teacher says, yeah, you guys are the last generation. And Janie's like, we fooled them, right? Have you ever thought about, I guess what I'm trying to get at is like, do you think about your family and that work in political ways? That work of resistance?
No, I think of my family as survivors. I think of Janie as a survivor. Not only did she survive as a Mohawk woman, but she also survived her own family, my family. She's still here. I mean, I don't know if it's told in the story, but Janie told us about Day Residential School on her 80th birthday. And she said that the teacher used to make them stand up every week. Did I talk about this in the movie? It doesn't matter. I'm going to go on with it anyway. They made her stand up in class with the other students every week and look at each other. And she said, take a good look around because you're looking at the last Indians that this planet's ever going to know. And Janie carried that with her because when you're a kid, we all know this. Authority can, or false idols can steer us in such terrible places, and it sticks with us. She told us that story with me and my kids and my grandkids, 4 generations of Mohawks, and my daughter Madeline had to point out to her that they didn't win. Colonialism didn't win in our household. We won because we're all sitting around together and we're acknowledging each other for who we are, where our place is in our family. So that's not really, to me, that's not even a political voice. Use a political voice. I only care to express myself or try to express myself from my heart because it's really all I've got.
And Shane, then for you, just kind of thinking through that, because I think, not to bring up like the Queen, but in the headlines and stuff, we often talk about colonialism as this king and country kind of thing, and we talk about it in terms of these really large systems. But as this movie, I think, just shows so beautifully, colonialism happens at a person-to-person level, and it can happen within families, and it can happen with, really well-meaning white people that, are not anywhere near getting over their own bullshit. And I'm wondering, how did you think through that in terms of this film? How did you think through approaching kind of that really relational level in this film?
Well, I mean, I think as Tom was saying, there's when you digest from that 10,000-foot view, talking about to Tom about his life and his family off camera, so to speak, we would look to contextualize the larger story and in those kind of political terms. But when you're with Tom and his family, you're just purely with his family. You're purely with that reality, and on that one-to-one level, it when you speak about the costs of sort of colonial violence as it pertains to my Métis family in all. Okay, if you guys want to look up a crazy land swindle story, look up Métis script. If you know anything about it, it's insane. Entire lands were swindled. You know who owns the tract of land that was gifted from the crown? The crown. Not the benevolent item on top of someone's head that is a representative of how beautiful we all are and how we're going to share. The crown of gold and jewels, that crown land script certificate from our family is owned by the Catholic Church at Lac Saint Anne. And when the Pope came, he was walking on places where our ancestors are buried, and that's tracts of land that is a part of my family history. So I could dig into that and be angry and pissed off. You get in a little touch of it. But there's also this other part of it. The desire to have pure erasure of who we are. And the beauty and love and laughter, and even the teasing, the musicality of the language and the perception, the open-heartedness, the absolute joy to be with each other, we're all right. Yeah. And that's what the doc's about.
Tom, I'm just wondering, yeah, you're still living in Hamilton, hey?
Oh God, yeah.
Okay. But when you talk about Ganawage in the film, you talk about it from like when you were a kid. It had this, just the word had this kind of mysticism about it. What is your relationship to that place now?
It's a place. It's funny. I get calls. I was in Nashville recently. My cousin called me up and said, "Hey, man, when are you coming home? You got to come home. You've got to be here. You've got to be on this land." My sister says, "You don't spend enough time on the land. You have to get the land under your feet. You have to be here." So besides all the work that I'm doing creatively and with another book and music and a play and the things that I'm working on to keep this story alive. Not my story, but this indigenous story alive. I don't have a lot of time to be driving up the 401 to Ganawage, unfortunately. And that's got to change. So you're talking about an active thought that this is something that's important. My relationship there has got to develop. And I've got to find the time to be able to do that instead of sitting in a hotel room in San Francisco. It's an anxiety for me. It pisses me off, and the only person that can change that is me. And I'm going to do that. I have to do that.
Are you still painting?
Oh yeah. I have an exhibit right now in Stratford at the Stratford Festival, a residential school exhibit that opened up with the play 1939. And what I did was I had built. I'm not much of a carpenter, but I had built 9 school desks, and on the top of the desks, I burned photographs of people's families, including my great-grandfather, Peter Lazar, into the tops of the desks. And as you move forward in the rows, the images start to disappear, representing the loss of language, and culture, and colors, and family, and love. And basically taking away everything that we deserve as human beings, because that's what was done. So that's one piece that I have. I also was asked by the Tragically Hip, a guy in LA actually asked me to paint a piece with Gord Downey's lyrics in it. And me and about a dozen artists all contributed to this project. And my project was I had an 8-foot nun built, and I wrote the lyrics to Gord Downey's "Now the Struggle Has a Name." And then I wrote the names of about 1,000 of the lost children that they found in residential school properties. And then I splattered blood across the nun's face. This is, just talking about this, I have to tell you, I mean, it took me a while to paint this thing, right? But just talking about that, most of all, it makes me feel glad I did it. And second of all, it just is another stone in the path that I have to keep going. So yes, the fast answer to that would have been yes, I'm still painting. And it's completely satisfying.
That's, sorry, man. I have kind of chills just thinking about that piece, Tom. Thank you for sharing that. And you kind of talked about this a little bit before, but what is that process of making? How has that changed for you? You said that it was getting deeper and that you were feeling kind of more truth in it. But what does that actually look like? What are you tapping into? And there's that very kind of funny scene in the film where your daughter's like, "Yeah, Dad, this is kind of culturally appropriation, But so what is it that you're tapping into these days that, maybe you didn't feel that you had space or whatever that you weren't tapping into before?
Well, my indigenous world is with my family. My indigenous world is in Ganawage, so that's what I relate to. So how do I express that? Well, the next round of paintings is going to deal with the Oka crisis. And also, the question that comes up, and I'm writing the second book, by the way, and I ask myself, am I one of them? That is still where colonial is still sticking its finger up my ass, man, and I don't like it. So I have to change that. But my brothers, and I talked about, I don't remember what I talked about in the film. So during the Oka crisis, I was at home reading the Globe and Mail and reading about the land dispute. My mother was actually in Ganawage at the time. And I was listening to it on the news and listening to it on the radio. And for some reason, my blood was boiling, and I couldn't figure out why, but I was really angry. And that's what I was doing. And my brothers, Christopher and Kyle, were sitting at their kitchen tables with automatic weapons and filling out their wills to go fight a war that they didn't think they were coming home from. They were filling out their wills. I ask myself, am I one of them? So I've talked about this extensively, that I can't get there the way they did. I wasn't born on the land, but I have to keep working to represent their lives and my culture the best way that I can. And I have to say that those two pieces that I told you about earlier, the residential school desks, and which is in Stratford, and this 8-foot nun, I have to actually reflect on them to feel the depth of my emotions. When I'm creating them, I'm creating them. It's like working on something, right? And the decisions I make when I'm creating, those are pretty important moments. But it's when I sit here and talk to you about those pieces that I get very emotional. I mean, I joke all the time that I'm 63 years old and I lose so much testosterone that I cry every day. But the truth is that I get very emotional about these pieces, and they don't feel like they belong to me. They feel like I've offered them to represent my blood. So that's what I'm going to keep on doing, because I got the best job in the world right now, and I just want to make it a good job. I want my work to be good, and I want it to resonate with people. And my voice is not that important, but my work is very, very important to me, and hopefully it will live on in some way and represent something that makes somebody really mad, or try to blame somebody else, I'm creating art right now in a culture where, we mostly battle with our thumbs on Twitter, So that's a pretty big battle, but I feel like I'm getting in there.
For those in the audience that don't know much about the Oka crisis, two really incredible films to take a look at. One that played here, I think, last year, Tracy Deer's film Beans, which is on Crave, and Alanis Obamsawin's film Kanesatake, 270 Years of Resistance, are both incredible films. And yeah, your blood should be boiling when you watch those films. We're getting kind of close to the end of this part of the evening, and there will be some time for some audience questions. So just while you're thinking of those, I just have one kind of last question for both of you. And when people registered for the event, they were able to put some questions in the in their registration. And somebody asked, you know, what role do youth have in this idea of truth and reconciliation? And that is a huge, huge question, but I want to, you know, lob it to you guys. You guys are both parents. Tom, you're a grandparent. You know, how do you see this generation that you guys get to be around and see grow up? How are they dealing with some of these questions that you guys have also dealt with and that you guys are dealing with?
Well, first of all, it's the world has got to be taken out of the hands of old men.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that has to be done. That if we do the work as old men, actually, or old women, then we can inspire our children and our grandchildren and generations to come to respond accordingly and to work with their hearts to make the changes that need to be made in this world. So I'm completely inspired and enlightened every day by my kids. They're just so smart, and they really feed me. They feed me the lines that I need daily. They're almost like I made my own book of scriptures, you know, with my kids.
Are you guys familiar with Thomas King, Inconvenient Indian? That book, he has a great term about the dead Indian. And there's a certain generation that grew up in it. Their feet were in the mud of the source, the land, the community, the language, and the culture. So my dad's generation, that's like 65 all the way, you know, up. And then there's another generation that left those communities or brought their kids up, like myself, away from the community because it was either not there or it was disconnect from returning from residential school, whatever might have you. So they're growing up in the cities. And there is a legion of times that you're made to feel when you seek to reconnect with your identity that you're perhaps an imposter. And you're not, the thing you're seeking is dead. So how could you seek something that doesn't exist? A lot of people would critique or joke. And you're made to feel that you're never going to get there. And so the feeling is that you're going to put on a costume as you sort of reclaim your space for a lot of people. And I think what you have to kind of look at it, as I was talking to Tom about this, you're actually taking the costume off. And that's a key thing for a lot of Indigenous people from a whole generation, many of them. Then we reconnect with our language and our community. We're not being an imposter. We're removing those layers of bullshit. And we're reconnecting with our truest self. And blood memory is real. The second part of that is, when you come to the new generation, you think about our friend Tasha's son, you think about Zoe Hopkins, her son, I think my own daughter, Claire. I'm telling you, it's different. They're growing up, their feet are getting right back into the mud. And that reconnection to the source and how that unlocks so much in us, so much in our parents, in our great-grandparents. Time is folding in on itself, and it's the greatest feeling ever. So the advice that it is to anybody who feels the imposter syndrome, and I don't mean someone who goes, I have one ancestor from 1600, please stop.
Yeah.
You want to go back to 1600? Thousands, hundreds of thousands of relatives. You're going to pick one? Come on now. Unless brown hands held you as a baby, don't start. Doesn't mean you can't be a part of things. Doesn't mean you can't join us, but don't step to the front and grab the mic. Second thing is, when you get to those people who are forcibly removed from their communities, that's a special case. What the foster care system is doing to children and generations, heart-wrenching. Tom's story touches on that. You got a sense of that tonight. It takes a lot for people to come back. So anybody who is coming back who has those real ties, my heart is with you. The whole community is here for you. It's an important part to fold yourself back in. Most kids, though, which is the most amazing part about like where we are right now, like I said, their feet are right in it. They know who they are, and they're not backing down from the truth of their love and heart for who they are. It's an exceptional time, really exciting.
I love so much of that. Yeah, I love that. Thank you. We do have some time for questions. I think that there's some microphones. The only way that Tom will be able to hear you is if you speak into the mic. So if anybody has any questions for Shane, Tom, please let us know.
As a matter of fact, I do have a question for Tom Wilson. My name is Christopher Roy. I enjoyed the documentary film. It was very educational and informative. My question for Tom Wilson is, have you overcome your drug addiction, your substance abuse addiction, and how did that affect your children, and has your relationship with your children and grandchildren, has that improved since that you have overcome your substance abuse addiction?
Even in the throes of cocaine and heroin, and I still worked every day to be a good father. I know that I was not the best father I could have been, but my heart was always there with them. My relationship with my kids is gigantic. It is my whole life, and I'll be talking to you. My son is out on the road with his girlfriend Serena Ryder right now, and they're having a great time. Seeing how in love they are is inspiring to me. Hopefully, I got checked in. My daughter, just had a new baby. I'm over there every day. Well, not when I'm in places like this, but I'm there every day. So there was a lot of healing to go on in the last 23 years that I've been sober, and I expect the healing to continue. But inside that is an undeniable love for one another that you can't beat us. We will not get beaten down by our own circumstances, and we'll support each other. If anything, we learned how to support each other. I know that I definitely got supported by my children. And going to the beginning of your question, it's actually their love that pulled me away from substance abuse. It wasn't a grand statement of you are more important than this drug. It was just a natural progression into sobriety. I don't know how to explain it any other way. I will tell you, just as far as addiction and alcoholism goes, I always encourage people to engage with people who are successful on the road to recovery, to be able to find people that have already been where you've been. The lessons that you learn along the way might not serve you in the moment. They might not serve you that year, but when you finally make a decision to round that corner and straighten the fuck up, all those lessons are going to be able to save you.
Thank you, Tom. That was beautiful. Just a softball question from the Innis College audience. I'm just wondering, any other questions for Tom or Shane? Yeah, or here.
I have yet another difficult question, so sorry, bear with me. It's about identity and being a settler and how to be an ally, I suppose. The background of my family history is, I can draw a lot of parallels with it between like Indigenous history, because my own family came here as settlers because they were kicked off their land. I'm Palestinian, so they also have a history of settler colonialism and trying to wash out an Indigenous population. But now I'm a settler on Canadian land. And I'm wondering, how can I advocate, or how can anyone who has like dual identities like advocate for their settler identity while still acknowledging or being an advocate for like a land that truly isn't theirs?
Okay, so this is a tough crowd.
Well, yeah, I know Shane is going to have the brightest, most intellectual, to the point, cut you with a knife answer. My softball answer to your speed, my softball answer to your fastball would be that this conversation is the beginning. My belief is that talking to one another, opening the conversation, is going to be the way that we're ultimately going to understand one another. I mean, we have to have an understanding of who we are to be able to move forward together. That is about as soft as I can get, but I really do mean it. Now I'm going to hand you over to Mac the Knife, Shane Belcourt.
Drum roll, please.
I think, part of it is going to be you be your truest self, right? I know it sounds like a self-help book, but I mean, honest to God, my heart goes out to you and your family about being dislodged and being here. But here you are, and here we are. And that's an important piece, because we can't undo all that other stuff. This is where we're at. But what's really exciting is, you're here, you're open to the message, you're looking for connections. You'll tell your own story, maybe not in movies, maybe it is in movies, I don't know, whatever it is. Maybe it's you're being an international rights lawyer. When you go back to a whole bunch of the late 60s and the 70s, so there was the pass system. Indigenous people couldn't leave reserves, weren't allowed to have lawyers. And so my dad was a rights leader, Maria Campbell, Harry Daniels, all these Métis coming off of Malcolm Norris and Jim Brady. It's unbelievable history. All the lawyers that stepped up at that time, go through them. They're all Jewish people who left from the Second World War, escaping the Holocaust. They're on the run from that. And they took that and they put that service into those communities because they saw the same story. And it was amazing. And there's a lot of great work from all those, Clayton Ruby and all the rest. There's tons. It's unbelievable. Rick Salter, what a history. Later, they're teaching Jean Taillé, a Métis rights lawyer who took the Powley case all the way to Supreme Court to assure Métis right to hunt and fish and subsist in their communities. So there's these threads of people coming together and working really well together. And as we started with, when you said, truth has to be spoken and heard. Truth has to have, you probably saw that really funny, I hope you did, the comedic troupe, the all-female comedic troupe, CBC.
Baroness von Sketch.
Baroness von Sketch about the land acknowledgement. And then it's just like, so should we give something back? Yeah. That's what it's about. But it's going to come from dialogue. It's going to come from court cases. It's going to come from people who are open to hey, listen, we can make amends here. We can work together and we can coexist. But there's, as we found all the time, is the last thing I'll say on this one, because I can go on for a long time. The big one is, when I was a kid in school, not at home, but in school class, Darwinism, fighting, the toughest win, right? I'm like, that doesn't square with anything that I experience in the cycle of water in my own life. It's not competing against me, it's offering the gift of life constantly in a flow from clouds to the deep sea. What's this Darwinism shit? Don't get it. Not squaring with ceremony and all the things I grew up around with my dad and those family. So I think about that and I meditate on that idea of the gifts that we're given, the chance that we're given to coexist, to be in relation with each other. And I think that that's what the treaties are about. That's what those relationships are about from our perspective. That it's not competitive, it's mutual flourishing. And as long as you come with a good place and be your truest self, we'll help each other, we'll be with each other, we'll laugh with each other, because no one's going anywhere. We all know that. We're just asking to have a little piece of ourselves that's protected in honoring the treaties of allowing us to flourish, just like you should too.
Tom, you were right. Shane nailed it. That was just a bunch of applause. I'm not sure if you heard it or not. We do have time for one more quick question, and then we should start wrapping it up. If anybody has a question, yep.
So I hope my question's actually a softball and doesn't uncover some kind of deep pain. Tom, you've been involved in some more recent music, or recent in air quotes, musical acts or groups, Blackie and the Rodeo Kings and performing as Lee Harvey Osmond, and those weren't mentioned in the documentary. Was that a specific choice, or was it just sort of not relevant?
Oh, how much Tom wanted to use those for like the licensing of those music, those songs from those bands. It was outrageous. I was like, Tom, we can't pay for that.
Even though the money's coming back to me, but so why wasn't there more Blackie and the Rodeo King music? You mean? I'm sorry, but you broke up a little bit here.
I think the question, Tom, was just, why was that not more a part of the film in kind of talking about your life now?
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's putting music or focusing on music in a story like this. It's like anything. If you put a gun or a bare ass into a movie, that's what. That's going to get all the attention. Music is something that is driven me and saved my life, by the way. But I didn't want it to be about. I wanted to be about more the creating of the music, or how I ended up creating the music, or what inspires me to create. That's way more interesting than, I did this show one time in, Denmark, and I made it with Metallica. That's not very interesting to me. I didn't. Both Shane and I when we started making this film, it was COVID, right? So we started doing it with a microphone around my dining room table. And I said to Shane, when I just. Sorry, I'm a little tired, but when I wrote the book, they said, "Yeah, it's going to be like a rock and roll book." I said, "Well, no, it isn't. This is another story." And I think that when the film was being made, the people, whoever was making the film, besides Shane, was thinking that it was going to be a rock and roll film, and it's like there's nothing more boring on the planet than that, So I didn't want to make it that, and as it turned out. People saw that it was more than just a rock and roll movie, or a guy that looks like me, that looks like he should be in a band or sleeping in a car. There was a greater story to be told, and so we kept a lot of that out. I guess.
Thanks, Tom. And you're never far from your guitar, even when you're in the strangest Zoom room that I've ever been a part of, So thank you for doing.
Oh yeah. Oh wow. Well, just outside is outside my window is San Francisco. Good God, I should have just done it from the street. Because it's really great here. Hey, if you get a chance to go to San Francisco, just do it, because the food, it's America. They pile food up like they could feed an entire village with the hamburgers they make. It's insane. The one thing I did want to say that was that all of us together like this is a good thing. And I mean that I know that Shane and I are doing all the talking, but all of us getting together and listening to one another is so important. So you know what? And I say this to myself too, turn off Fox News and CNN and delete your Twitter app for a little while and give yourself a chance to rejuvenate, give your heart a chance to become alive again, because the changes that we can make in this world all lie inside us. We can't rely on churches and governments and corporations to do the work for us, but we as individuals can really make a difference in this world by showing love. So thanks for inviting me into your wherever you are, some auditorium or something, and thanks for coming to my hotel room.
Thank you, Tom. Do you want to add
No.
anything, Shane?
We'll talk soon, Tom. See you Tuesday.
Oh, Shane, we got to eat. We got to eat maybe next Tuesday, right?
Yeah, I'll see you Tuesday.
And just to kind of, Tom, I picked up a copy of your book and I'm working through it, but I just wanted to close us off with the way that you open it, with the dedication to all of those who have come before, those that will come after, and those that keep me going. So in the spirit of that, thank you so much to both of you. Thank you to our hosts here at Innis College for having us. Shayla has prepared some really helpful QR codes just outside the door if you are interested in making a donation to either of the bursary funds that were mentioned at the top of the evening. Gratitude for this place, this day, and this life. Thank you very much to both of you.
Thanks, everybody.
And with that, I'll pass it over to Vikki Huang, who's just going to tell us a little bit more about the activities going on here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Hello, I'm Vikki, and I'm a programmer for the University of Toronto Cinema Studies Student Union. Okay. So, firstly, I think I speak for everyone when I say that tonight has been an incredibly touching and insightful experience. So I would like to echo the sentiments that have been put out by Jon. So I'd like to thank Shane and Tom for creating this beautiful film. And I'd like to thank Shayla, Karen, and everyone for organizing this event. And lastly, I'd like to thank you all for coming and joining us tonight for Truth and Reconciliation Day. So I'd like to talk a little bit about what the Cinema Studies Student Union does. We host a variety of film-related events throughout the year, and one of our notorious events is the Free Friday Films. So Free Friday Films has been a bedrock for the U of T community for the past 30 years. Every Friday, we do a free film, which is open to the general public. So you don't have to be a student. You can come in, you can bring your family, and you can check out the films that we're doing. So next week, we're screening La Haine and Black Panthers, and it shares a very similar revolutionary and political ethos as the films and touches on similar notes as tonight's films. So if you're interested, please come out, show your support, and maybe meet some other cinephiles. It's just a lovely time. I've met tons of people who have been coming here for over 10 years, and they say that this has been just a great highlight to their week. So maybe you can make it part of your schedule. And then furthermore, next on the 7th, we will also be doing a grad panel. So it will be hosted by Patrick Marshall, who is a graduate student at the University of Toronto Cinema Studies Institute, and he'll be doing a talk on political thrillers, which is in tune and in line with the themes of the films that we're screening on the 7th. So on that note, thank you all for coming out tonight. And I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.